In a world where healing magic is regulated and human lives are priced like merchandise, one man breaks every rule to save the forgotten. They call him Xenos, the unlicensed healer. He doesn't ask for money, he asks for something far more dangerous: souls, secrets, and loyalty that can never be broken. This is the story of a healer who saves lives, not for justice, not for fame, but to reshape fate itself. A long time ago, there was a land tucked between wide rivers and deep forests. People called it Eldom, and it had a special kind of fame, not for warriors or gold, but for its healers. Folks from nearby towns would travel for days just to get treated there. The kingdom had strict rules. If someone wanted to be an official healer, they had to go through years of learning and pass tough tests before getting a license. But there was this one guy, Jace. No license, no training from fancy schools, just raw talent. He was a natural. People came to him with injuries, sickness, and all sorts of problems. He didn't wear the kingdom's official robes or carry a badge, but somehow word kept spreading about him, and he helped everyone who knocked on his door. Now let's jump to Jace's small house on the edge of town. His assistant, Mandy, was already up before the sun, brewing coffee and moving around the kitchen. She nudged him awake like she always did, got him his drink, and started planning the day while he stretched and yawned. After a quiet morning, Jace treated a farmer with a nasty back injury. The man tried to tip him, and Jace didn't say no. He had bills to pay too. Later, Mandy checked in with him about the day's schedule. He had a couple of house calls lined up and promised he'd be home before it got too dark. Mandy said she'd have dinner ready and told him not to be late. While Lily was busy cooking dinner, Carmilla dropped by. Lily was still working in the kitchen, trying to make everything perfect. She wanted it to turn out amazing. After all, she saw herself as the future Mrs. Xenos. Carmilla smiled and went to relax while Lily kept working. Soon, a girl named Zofa showed up at the door asking about Xenos. Lily let her know he wasn't home yet, just out doing his usual house visits. Zofa said she'd hang around and wait. A little later, another girl named Linga came by with the same question. Lily told her the same, he'd be back soon. Zofa wasn't thrilled and told Linga to go back home, but Linga refused and said she'd wait too. Then a third girl, Loy, showed up looking for Xenos. Lily told her to wait with the others since he wasn't home yet. All three of them decided to stick around and wait for him. As Lily finished cooking, she offered to serve the food, but the girls said they'd wait for Xenos to eat together. Lily stepped outside for a bit to bring in the laundry and told them to keep an eye on the food. But once she left, the smell in the kitchen was just too tempting. One by one, the girls gave in and started eating. Before long, all the food was gone. Lily came back and was shocked. Everything she cooked had vanished. She asked what happened, but none of them gave a clear answer at first. Eventually, they started pointing fingers, each blaming the others. Things got a little heated, and it looked like they were about to start a full-on argument. Lily reminded them that Xenos wouldn't be happy if he saw them fighting. She told them she wanted everyone to eat together, not like this. The girls felt bad and apologized, offering to help make a new meal, but Lily told them they were out of ingredients. That's when Carmilla came back and found out what had happened. She was disappointed too. She had been looking forward to that meal. Lena quickly went over to apologize, and the others followed. They knew they messed up. Lily told them if they wanted to make it right, they had to bring back the best ingredients they could find. Once they were alone, Carmilla quietly asked Lily if she was still upset. Lily told Carmilla she wasn't that mad, just a little upset because that was the last of the herbs she had. Carmilla laughed it off, saying she wouldn't have been so calm if it were her. But Lily just brushed it off. She wanted to finish the meal before Xenos came back, even if things didn't go as planned. Meanwhile, Xenos was on his way home when he noticed a girl on the ground clearly in pain. As he watched, a man, her boss, showed up and started yelling at her. She tried to explain she'd been sick and had gone to the hospital, but they refused to treat her since she didn't have money. The boss didn't care. He grabbed her roughly and dragged her off, saying she had no excuse to skip work. They ended up near some old graves, and things got worse. He pushed her hard, and she slammed into one of the tombstones. That's when something weird happened. A strange spirit rose from the grave and slipped into her body. The boss, still fuming, told her to get back to work or he'd make her regret it. He even kicked her while shouting about money. But this time, something had changed. The girl hit back, and it wasn't just a small hit. She seriously hurt him, and he ran off in fear. While escaping, the boss ran into Xenos and begged for help, saying his servant had gone crazy. Xenos was confused and asked where she was. The boss pointed at the girl, who was slowly making her way toward them. Xenos wanted to understand what was going on, but the boss just said it was farming work and tried to act like nothing strange had happened. He warned Xenos not to get involved and even threatened to charge him if anything happened. The girl suddenly charged at them. Xenos quickly moved the boss out of the way, trying to figure out what had made her so furious. She began throwing rocks at him, but Xenos dodged everything easily. The boss begged Xenos to do something, anything, to stop her. But Xenos refused to kill her. That wasn't his way. The boss just said he'd replace her with another worker, but Xenos ignored him. Then the girl threw a huge rock at Xenos, but he blocked it and shattered it. She rushed at him again with full force. He avoided every blow, then blocked her final strike, sending her flying into a nearby building. Xenos approached her slowly. She couldn't move anymore. He knelt beside her and placed his hands over her, using his healing skills to remove the dark spirit that had possessed her. While doing so, he wondered how simple farm work could lead to someone getting taken over by an evil spirit. Once the girl was safe, he stood up. The boss, shocked by what he just saw, asked if Xenos could also heal him, but Xenos said he was done for the day. The boss begged, saying he could die from his injury. Xenos replied that treatment would cost more. The boss quickly handed over a bag of money, but Xenos said it still wasn't enough. The boss was confused. He offered more than the usual rate. That's when Xenos told him something unexpected. He wasn't even a licensed healer. He worked in secret. The boss stood there, stunned, while Xenos simply walked away. Xeno told the boss that what he was doing was basically illegal, kind of like stealing from graves. He said healing the girl wasn't cheap, so he'd take her with him to settle the difference. The boss didn't argue, he just gave the go-ahead and left. Xeno took the girl's documents to make it official, then sat beside her until she woke up. When she opened her eyes, she was confused and asked who he was. Xenos let her know that she now belonged to him and asked for her name. She said her name was Tell. Since she was still hurting, Xenos needed to examine her and asked her to get ready for that. He'd spent a lot healing her, so he needed to check everything. He looked her over and confirmed what he suspected. She had a stomach issue, probably from being hunched over all the time. Without using any kind of tool or spell, he fixed her up right away. He told her he had opened her up, removed the problem, and closed her back up, but there was no scar or sign it even happened. Tell was shocked. No magic, no surgery, no wounds, just like that. She couldn't believe it. She thanked him and said she didn't know how to repay him. Xenos told her that thank you wasn't enough. He said he wanted something in return and that she'd need to start working for him right away. She agreed without hesitation and said she'd serve him however he needed. He gave her a task, finding something listed in an old book. Tell was confident and led the way. When they reached the right spot, she picked the plant and asked if that was the one. Xenos said it was and told her she had completed the job he gave her. She looked surprised and asked if that was really it. She thought he wanted more from her, but he said that was enough. She'd done what he asked, and now her debt was cleared. He explained that fairness works both ways. You should be rewarded for helping someone, and if someone helps you, you should return the favor fairly. Tell still felt like she hadn't done anything big, but Xeno said otherwise. Finding that plant was important, and he wouldn't have been able to do it without her. Then he ended the contract between them and told her she was free to go. Tell admitted she didn't have a place to go, but said she wanted to experience life and figure things out on her own. She promised that once she learned more about life, she'd come back and tell him all about it. She also asked if she could visit sometime. Xeno said she could drop by whenever she wanted, and added that if she ever got sick again, he'd treat her for free. He then went back home, and Layla was there to greet him, saying the food wasn't ready just yet. Soon after, 3 other girls showed up. Zenas was surprised and asked what they were doing there. They reassured him everything was fine. Layla walked over to them, excited about all the tasty food they had brought, and couldn't believe how much there was. Zenos headed into the kitchen to get a pot ready and started adding herbs to it. Carmilla was there too, and he asked if she had come along as well. Layla joined them, saying she was about to make a big meal, starting with some black tea. We are then taken to the past where Aeon throws a gold coin in Zenas' direction and starts humiliating him, saying that's the kind of reward he'll never have in his life. Hearing these uncalled for insults, Zenas asks what he means by that. Aeon then decides to be more direct and says that Zenas hasn't done anything useful in Grovo, so he'll be expelled. In response, Zenas argues back, saying he's done a lot for the team. He also finds it strange that Aston is treating him like this, especially since Aston was the one who extended a hand to him and even called him a friend. Seeing Zenas' reaction, Aston starts laughing and says the boy is still just as naive as he was when he was a kid. After all, back then, Aston only wanted a disposable member for the group, someone who could die or be used as a human shield to save them from headaches. To Aston, Zenas is just cattle, meant to be used and discarded. And just because Zenas got fed, doesn't mean he belongs to the group. Then Aeon brags that they've finally become one of the strongest and most famous groups in the region. Hearing this, Zenas says they only got that far with his help, but Aston brushes off his contributions, claiming Zenas shouldn't take all the credit just because he learned some dark core magic on his own. Since Aston is trying to get the attention of the region's rich and powerful, he plans to kick Zenas out of the group, believing that having a poor guy around would only hold him back. As for that gold coin he tossed earlier, Aston says Zenas can keep it as long as he stays quiet about ever being part of the Golden Phoenix group. With that, Zenas quietly agrees and leaves, promising not to say a word. Meanwhile, an elf girl is ambushed in an alley, but she counters with a nutcracker move on her attacker and manages to escape, until he hits her with an arrow, causing her to collapse. Then, losing control, he slashes her with a blade. At that moment, Zenas happens to pass by and sees the situation. He decides to buy the girl from the 2 attackers using the gold coin he got from the Golden Phoenix. Seeing that the girl can barely breathe, Zenas immediately heals her fully using his dark core magic. When she gets up, the girl is shocked to see that her wound has vanished instantly. She thanks Zenas and introduces herself as Lirio. As they talk, Zenas notices she's a girl from the streets with nothing to her name. He decides to start by buying her some clothes and food. While they eat, Zenas wonders what to do with her. He realizes he can't just dump her in a random orphanage in the slums, especially since she's an elf. She'd be treated terribly. The girl then asks where he works. Zenas replies that he was just expelled from his old adventurer group and now has nowhere to go. Hearing his story, Lirio immediately relates to him. After all, she also has no clear path in life. During their conversation, they're interrupted by a man who walks in with an injured arm asking for some water. Upon examining the wound, Zenas realizes it was caused by a magic weapon. The man confirms this, explaining he got careless and was hit. Zenas approaches and heals the man instantly with his magic. Amazed by Zenas' powers, the man says he's never seen a healer of that level. He pulls out a few gold coins and hands them to Zenas before leaving. Seeing Zenas frozen, Lirio asks why he looks so serious. Zenas explains that he didn't even know his healing services were worth anything. Now that he does, he decides to open a healing clinic so he can earn money and people's gratitude, something he's never received before. But Zenas also admits that as a poor kid from the slums, he can't get an official healer's license, so opening a legitimate clinic would be nearly impossible. Instead, he figures it's best to run things underground. Excited by his plan, Lirio asks if she can help out with the clinic, but Zenas hesitates. He doesn't want to drag a kid into illegal work. Lion couldn't forget that Zenas had technically purchased her, and because of that, she felt obligated to follow him wherever he went. But when she mentioned this, Zenas insisted he only did it to help her, not to make her feel bound to him. Still, Lion couldn't shake the fear that he might just leave her behind now that he had what he wanted. Zenas, however, reassured her. He had no intention of abandoning her. At the very least, he wanted to ensure she was somewhere safe before parting ways. With that in mind, The two of them headed toward a more remote area on the outskirts of town, where Zanus intended to set up his underground healing clinic. As they arrived, Lion asked why he had chosen such an out-of-the-way location. Zanus explained that trying to run an illegal clinic in the middle of a crowded city would be asking for trouble. Plus, the abandoned buildings in the area made it easier for him to find a place to stay. But when they reached the run-down house he had picked, Lion instinctively clutched his arm. She looked uneasy, clearly afraid to go inside. When asked why, she explained that eerie places like this were often breeding grounds for monsters. If they happened to encounter a specter, it could spell their doom. Zanus was unfamiliar with the term, so Lion explained, "Specters are some of the most dangerous undead creatures in existence. They resemble ordinary humans, but if one were to touch you, it could drain your life force instantly, turning you into a thinking, obedient ghost." Despite her frightening explanation, Zanus stepped into the house without hesitation. Lion, still cautious, asked him to wait and used her magic to light up the interior so they could inspect it properly. She then asked what he thought of the place. Zanus smiled and said it was more than good enough. Compared to his old life, where he often had to sleep on the streets during his time as an adventurer, having a roof over his head already felt like luxury. After checking the beams and the structure, he determined the house was solid, just in need of a deep clean. Seeing how content he was with such little comfort, Lion couldn't help but point out how positive he was. Zeno shrugged and replied that since he had never really owned anything, he had no reason to let negativity take over. Suddenly, the peaceful moment was interrupted. A specter emerged and began closing in on them. Without panicking, Zanus channeled healing magic and struck the monster, calming Lion as he explained that he'd already slain about 100 of these creatures before. He knew well that healing spells were especially effective against them. Lion was stunned. Specters were considered unstoppable. Most people never lived to tell the tale. But as if to challenge that notion, the creature regenerated its limbs and lunged at them again. However, upon sensing Zanus preparing another healing spell, it hesitated and backed away. At that moment, the specter, revealed to be none other than the queen of her kind, began to question the situation. No human had ever dared anger her before. Frustrated, she summoned her ghostly servants to finish the fight. Realizing that negotiation was no longer an option, Zanus unleashed his full healing aura, wiping out her summoned spirits instantly. The queen demanded to know who he really was. Zanus answered plainly, he was just an unlicensed healer, nothing more. He had no interest in harming her. He only wanted to use the house as his clinic. Seeing that there was little she could do to stop him, the queen, Carmilla, let out a sigh and disappeared into the shadows, allowing him to claim the house. The very next day, the clinic was up and running. After tidying the place, Zanus and Lion began seeing their first patients. But before long, a familiar figure from the day before returned, this time bringing his younger sister, hoping Zanus could save her too. When Zanus sees the wound on the girl's arm, he immediately recognizes the signs of a poisoned magic weapon attack. After assessing her condition, he delivers some brutal honesty. He's going to have to amputate the arm. The cost? A whopping 1 million weigh-in. It's the only way to save her, in his opinion. Trying to avoid that fate, the girl pulls rank. She introduces herself as Sophia, also known by the alias the Tornado. This revelation catches Zanus off guard. His very first patient turns out to be a major player. Sophia isn't just anyone. She's one of the top 3 leaders who control the slums. She leads the Lizardmen faction, who are known for targeting corrupt merchants and distributing stolen goods among the poor, a literal Robin Hood figure. Sophia, still bargaining, demands a real explanation for the absurd price. Zanus responds calmly. He's not just removing the arm, he's regenerating it completely. Creating a new limb from scratch will take tremendous effort. And that's what justifies the price. Though skeptical, Sophia agrees to take the risk. Zanus gets to work and successfully regrows her arm from nothing, proving that he wasn't bluffing. Later that night, Carmilla joins Zanus and Lily for a quiet tea break. Unfortunately, she burns her tongue and retreats upstairs. Meanwhile, Lily wonders why the Lizardmen always seem to end up injured. Zenas explains that their constant battles with rival species in the slums keep them in a never-ending cycle of conflict. As they talk, a new visitor arrives. Linga, a woman known for controlling the underground gambling rings. She's come seeking the secret healer to treat her wounded werewolves. Zenas is surprised. He's only been seeing underworld elites since he opened the clinic. However, Zenas informs her that clinic hours are over. Linga responds bluntly, she's not here for a checkup. She's here to kill him, claiming he's the infamous healer aiding a rival faction. She attacks without warning, but Zenas quickly shields himself using a self-learned barrier spell. Impressed by his defense, Linga orders her men to strike too, but they fail just as miserably. Frustrated, she instructs them to destroy the building instead, thinking that at least she can ruin his clinic. The chaos draws Carmilla downstairs. Upon seeing her home being wrecked, she prepares to wipe them all out, but Zenas steps in, reminding her that this place was meant to heal people, not become a battlefield. Hearing this, Carmilla respects his request and calmly returns upstairs. Witnessing how the Queen of Spectres obeyed Zenas, Linga drops to her knees, apologizing immediately. After all, he just tanked their attacks and has the literal Queen of the Undead living under his roof. The next day, Zenas is visited by a servant of Lu, the orc leader. He tells Zenas that his mistress wants to meet with him personally. Zenos knew trouble was bound to show up eventually, especially after he took down two big names from the slum scene. The third one left was Luov, the one all the orcs and ogres looked up to. She was tough, real tough. Rumor had it she could smash through solid rock with her bare fists. And that's exactly how she made a killing, breaking into mana crystal deposits and selling the stuff off. Meeting her wasn't exactly on Zenas' wish list, but if talking to her meant no more gangsters bothering his clinic, then fine, let's get it over with. Before heading out, he asked the orc tagging along if Lofi was at least the kind of person who'd sit down and talk like a normal adult. The orc nodded, saying she was smart and respected, maybe the wisest person he'd ever met. Sounded good on paper, but then why wasn't she coming to meet Zenas herself? Turned out she physically couldn't. That set off a few alarm bells in Zenas' head. No time to waste, so he followed the orc straight to her hideout, a cave tucked away from the rest of the slums. Inside, he finally met Lovi. She seemed friendly enough and didn't act all high and mighty. Zenas was curious though. How the hell did she even hear about him? Apparently, the local beast folk couldn't stop gossiping about some miracle healer, even though they were supposed to keep quiet. So much for working in the shadows. Lobe said she heard he could fix anything for the right price, and now she wanted to see if the rumors were real. Zenas took a look at her. No obvious wounds or bruises, so he told her he'd check her insides with his mana scan. That surprised her. Most healers couldn't even do that kind of thing, which honestly baffled Zenas. How do you fix someone if you don't even know what's wrong? Not long after scanning her, he found it, a weird lump inside her gut that was giving off mana. Definitely not normal, probably a mana core or something like it. Loevi confirmed it was a special kind of stone, the kind laced with explosive magic. One wrong move and boom, she's done for. Zenos assumed it was some kind of hit job, poisoned food maybe, but Loevi said no. She was just really hungry one day, saw something that looked like a snack and wolfed it down. Turned out to be a damn magic bomb. Total accident. She laughed it off, but Zenos was already thinking of a way to fix it. He was ready to leave and prep, but Lovi stopped him. She explained that she'd already crushed the thing a bit with her teeth while eating, so it could blow any second now. She was at peace with dying, but she didn't want her people to stick around and risk themselves. That's why she wanted Zenos to take her treasure after she was gone. Better him than someone shady. She'd done some digging and learned Zenos only charged the rich, never kids or families who couldn't pay. That was enough to earn her trust. She even tossed him a key to her vault, but Zenos never planned to let her die. Since she hadn't gone boom yet, he figured he still had time. No hesitation, he pulled out his magic blade and got to work. Louise's guards freaked out, but before they could stop him, he'd already sliced her open, removed the core, and healed her up like nothing happened. When he showed them the dangerous stone, they just stared in shock. Problem was, it was still active, so Zenos clenched it in both hands, let it explode, and shielded the blast with a mana barrier. His hands took some damage, but it was better than the whole place turning into rubble. When the dust settled, he handed the vault key back to Loie, telling her she didn't need to give away her fortune anymore. She was stunned. Most people would have taken the deal and walked away rich, but Xenos didn't think that would have been right. He believed in charging fair, not robbing people blind. Loewe smiled, genuinely grateful. She promised to help him if he ever needed anything. Guards, resources, whatever. She even offered to send her warriors to guard his clinic. But Xenos turned her down. A squad of orc soldiers hanging around would only draw the wrong kind of attention. A few days passed. Back at the clinic, Lily sat at the front desk looking kind of annoyed. Lately, Zofia, Linga, and Lovi had all been dropping by way more than usual. Xenos noticed it too. None of them were hurt, and they didn't seem sick either. At first, he thought they were just bored, but Carmilla set him straight real quick. Those women weren't there for treatment, they were clearly crushing on him. Xenos never really saw himself as anything special. In his mind, he was just some underground healer, patching people up and staying out of trouble. So when Carmilla suggested those 3 girls might actually like him, he found the whole idea ridiculous. But Carmilla seemed way too sure of herself. Meanwhile, Lily started freaking out at the thought that one of those girls might swoop in and steal all of Xenos' attention. He told her not to worry though, he wasn't into any of them. Honestly, he thought they were all kinda nuts. Still, Carmilla warned that if things kept going the way they were, it might not stay peaceful for long. Xenos brushed it off, thinking it was all just talk. But sure enough, the very next day, one of the girls, Zofia, waltzed into the clinic with a tray of sweets, casually hinting she was ready to start a full-on war with the others. And right after her, Zofia showed up with a pile of fruits. Then Linga brought a stack of rare fish, and Lo brought some meat for them. They all had the same idea, declare war and win Xenos over. For some reason, they refused to explain. Xenos tried to stop the madness, but none of them cared. They were already set on fighting it out. Carmilla couldn't stop laughing, joking that Xenos somehow turned into the center of a romantic battlefield. He didn't find it funny at all, especially when the news came that the duel was happening at noon. At the arena, things got serious real quick. Each of the 3 girls had brought their crews, all armored up and ready to brawl. Just when things were about to explode, Xenos walked in. Everyone stopped. The tension was so thick you could cut it. Instead of stopping the fight though, Xenos surprised everyone by saying they could go ahead and settle it however they wanted. He figured if they were so set on this, maybe they'd calm down after getting it out of their system. That little push was all they needed. The girls were more fired up than ever, and someone shouted something about the winner getting a special prize. Xenos didn't even hear what it was at first, but it was too late. The chaos had begun. Zofia rushed in, swinging her twin blades. Linga dodged and flipped backward, narrowly avoiding a hit. Loie jumped from a ledge, trying to crush them both with a stomp, but missed and ended up flattening half a food stand instead. Then it turned into an all-out war. One of the groups even launched fireworks for no reason. Soon the battlefield looked like a scene from a disaster movie. Steel clashed, people flew through the air, and magical blasts lit up the sky. And yet, not a single fighter went down. Hours passed and everyone was still standing. That's when Zofia noticed something weird. Her cuts were vanishing. She wasn't even in pain anymore. Everything paused. People looked around, confused. Then Xenos stepped forward and explained the obvious. He was healing all of them the entire time. He never said he'd let them die. As their healer, he couldn't just stand there and watch them destroy each other. He'd been silently mending wounds from the sidelines, non-stop. Nobody could believe it. Who the hell could heal an entire army at once? But that's when the truth hit. As long as Xenos was there, no one was winning. The fight could literally go on forever, and he made sure they knew he was keeping track of every single hour. He wasn't doing it for free. The girls finally got the message. Fighting was pointless if nothing would come from it. So they agreed to chill out and call a truce between their groups. But the competition for Xenos? Oh, that was still very much on. They just agreed not to stab each other over it anymore. Later on, Lily found Xenos sitting at the edge of the field, looking completely worn out. She asked why he even bothered to stop the fight. Xenos stayed quiet for a second. then remembered something an old mentor once told him. Patching people up is good, but real healing means changing the world around you. He wasn't sure if he'd ever reach that level, but he figured he had to try. He didn't want more fighting in the slums. People here already had it hard enough. And sure, he joked about losing business if folks stopped getting hurt, but deep down, Lily knew better. He just wanted peace. Even if it meant giving up gold or dealing with love-crazed lunatics, Xenos chose what felt right. That's exactly why Lily liked him. He cared way more than he let on. Of course, when she told him that straight up, Xenos just blinked, like he didn't understand a word. Typical. Anyway, with the chaos finally over, Xenos stood up, dusted himself off, and headed home. He still had a bunch of healing fees to collect. Business as usual. Lily didn't think Xenos was being serious when he said he'd charge everyone for the healing during the big brawl, but turns out he wasn't joking at all. Healing that many people back to back was no joke, and Xenos wasn't about to let all that effort slide without getting something in return. Meanwhile, back in the capital, the head of the Royal Knights was in a quiet meeting with his vice commander, Krishna. She noticed the guy was clearly stressed, so she asked what was going on. Apparently, he'd heard a wild rumor, something about the demi-human gangs in the slums suddenly calling a truce. That sounded like total nonsense. Those groups had been at each other's throats for as long as anyone could remember, so the idea that they'd just stop fighting felt unreal. But if it was true, it wasn't just surprising, it was dangerous. See, the kingdom had stayed stable for years because the poor folks were too busy fighting each other to rise up against the rich. But if they found common ground, if they joined forces, they might start demanding rights, fair treatment, maybe even free meds. That kind of unity could shake the whole system. The weirdest part? Word on the street was that one person made the peace happen. The commander didn't like that, not one bit. He told Krishna to handle it, quietly. No mess, no fuss. Just find whoever was behind the peace and get rid of the problem. Krishna didn't hesitate. She took the job immediately, ready to go deal with whoever messed up the chaos by bringing in peace. Back in the slums, Xenos suddenly sneezed. The people around him got all worked up like he was about to drop dead. Linga quickly offered her tail to keep him warm, and Loeb went full extra, saying he should rest his face on her, legendary pillows. That crushed Lily, who just stared in defeat, not having any weird body part to offer. Xenos brushed it off, saying it was just a sneeze, and reminded them he still had to fix up Zofia. Once he finished patching her arm, he asked how she even got hurt, since it'd been a while since she needed any fixing. Zofia explained she'd been out working the night shift, stealing from shady nobles and sharing the loot with struggling folks. But this time she picked the wrong house and ended up crossing paths with Krishna, the vice commander herself. The woman had a reputation for using her magic guns before asking questions, and Zofia barely escaped. That bit of news made Carmilla nervous. Getting noticed by someone like Krishna? Not great for Xenos. But he wasn't too worried. He figured someone as high up as her wouldn't bother with some back alley healer. Except, Krishna was already in the slums asking questions. She noticed things were weird. Demi-humans weren't fighting anymore, which made her suspicious. She stopped a lizard guy nearby and bluntly asked who was behind all the peace. The guy didn't recognize her, but he knew better than to snitch. So he kept his mouth shut and tried to walk off. Bad move. Krishna pulled her gun and threatened to shoot his walking stick if he didn't talk. But the guy still wouldn't give up Xenos. He was ready to take the hit if it meant protecting him. Just then, Zofia and her brother showed up. Krishna wasn't ready to fight them both, so she slipped away before they noticed her. She wandered into the older part of the slums and ended up stumbling on Xenos' clinic completely by accident. Thinking she was just lost, she went inside to ask for directions. Xenos, being the nice guy he was, offered to help, but just as he was about to assist her, Lily walked in with some tea. The second Krishna noticed Lily's elf ears, her whole vibe changed. Without warning, she pulled her gun and fired right at Xenos' head. Krishna didn't expect to run into another suspect while chasing a totally different case. She was actually looking into a string of child kidnappings when she noticed something odd. An elf girl and a human boy who clearly weren't related. That was enough to raise her suspicions, so she jumped into action without thinking twice. Lily tried to make it clear that she wasn't kidnapped. Xenos had taken her in willingly, but Krishna wasn't buying it and started talking about illegal trafficking and how it needs proper paperwork and whatnot. When Lily insisted that the boy had actually saved her, Krishna began to realize she might have messed up. Luckily, the shots she fired earlier weren't deadly. Still, the healer she hit was out cold, for now. Krishna's great at her job, but she's got a serious temper. That's her biggest flaw. Or at least, that's what she thinks. Xenos, now awake, joked that her worst trait is actually her awful sense of direction. He looked around, clearly confused by the whole situation. Krishna apologized for rushing things, but asked how Xenos came out without a scratch. He explained he used some basic defensive magic, which left Krishna puzzled. She didn't think that kind of spell could block her enchanted gear. She walked up to him and checked for herself. No injuries. She muttered something about how weird stuff keeps happening lately. Xenos said that being attacked by a total stranger was definitely one of the weirder things he's experienced. That got Krishna curious. She asked if he was some kind of legendary wizard who specialized in defense magic his whole life. Xenos shut that down fast. First, he wasn't a famous anything. Second, she clearly sucked at remembering names. Still, Krishna wasn't about to let her guard down. No one fools the deputy commander of the Royal Knights. When she dropped her title, both Xenos and Lily were stunned. Krishna told Xenos he had to help with the investigation since the situation was serious. To avoid further chaos, Xenos hung a warning flag in the clinic to keep people out and agreed to talk with her. That's when Krishna admitted she was secretly hunting someone in the slums. Xenos found it weird she was sharing top-secret info with a random guy, but she just said it was everyone's duty to help the knights. When he asked who she was after, she leaned in and said, "The mediator, the same guy who supposedly kept the slum factions from tearing each other apart." Xenos almost choked on his tea. Just then, Carmilla showed up with a look that said this situation was about to get messy. Krishna couldn't ignore someone with that kind of influence. She claimed the mediator hadn't harmed the demihumans, but still saw him as a threat. No one could keep control like that without dark help. Xenos argued that maybe the guy just didn't like drama and wanted to stay out of the spotlight. Krishna asked if he knew the guy, but he brushed it off, saying it was just a hunch. Still, she was convinced that letting someone like the mediator do whatever he wanted could endanger the whole kingdom someday. Lily didn't think he had such big plans. Yeah, he was strict with money, but she guessed he didn't enjoy seeing people suffer. Krishna asked if Lily knew who he was, but the elf nervously denied it. Even so, Krishna could tell tracking him down wasn't going to be easy. Their chat basically wrapped up there. Xenos offered to show her the way back to town. She could tell he was way too eager to see her leave, but didn't push it. As she got up to leave, she pointed out the random bed in the middle of the room. Xenos quickly said he was planning to get rid of it. That's when she surprised him. She said she wanted to stay there, said she needed a base for her mission, and this place seemed just right. She even offered to pay rent. Right after that, Carmilla drifted in from the back, throwing a quiet jab about how the clinic owner sure had a knack for attracting wild women into his life. Later, Krishna was treated a bit more politely and Lily handed her a hot drink, but Krishna couldn't even take a sip. Turns out, she's overly sensitive to hot stuff. She joked that it was her only flaw, which made Xenos mentally note that she seemed to have a bunch of only flaws. Meanwhile, Lily wasn't too thrilled and nudged Xenos to do their usual routine. After a short pause, he got the hint and began gently patting her head. Carmilla reappeared and pointed out, in that smug, ghostly way of hers, that Lily was clearly trying to mark her territory in front of their new guest. Krishna looked puzzled since Xenos seemed to be talking to thin air. Carmilla, of course, was invisible to her. She teased that Lily just wanted to flex a little, trying to impress a stranger, even if that stranger had nearly blasted Xenos with magic earlier. Still, Carmilla was all in for the drama. She couldn't wait to see what wild turn the next part of this odd story would take. Speaking of drama, Lily noticed Xenos hadn't touched his tea and offered to cool it down for him. Then she wanted to comb his hair and even tried to feed him an apple. Clearly going all in with the affection, not caring what Krishna thought. But when things started getting a little too intense, Lily grabbed Zenos's cheeks and tried to say something bold, only to instantly knock out from exhaustion. She was quietly placed on the bed to sleep it off. Now that it was just the two of them, Krishna circled back to her earlier suspicions. If Zenos claimed Lily was rescued from traffickers, she wanted to know who they were, but Zenos had no answers. Krishna mentioned that this area was known for shady child trafficking rings. Zenos asked if that was why she shot him earlier. She apologized again, blaming it once more on her temper, which she still insisted was her only flaw. Despite everything, she believed someone in her position had to aim for perfection, like a role model for the people. Thinking Zenos might be some kind of defense magic expert, she wondered if he could fully heal something serious, like a lost arm. Before he could reply, she cut in and said, only a saint-level healer could do that kind of miracle. She brought up a past battle where she wrecked Sophia, the fighter known as the Tornado, so badly that her arm was ruined. But recently, she spotted Sophia in the slums and her arm looked brand new. That kind of recovery wasn't normal, and Krishna figured whoever pulled that off had to be respected big time in the community. Anyway, she planned to start her real mission the next day and swore she'd find and arrest the person stirring up the slums. Zenos questioned why the slums bothered her so much. That's when Krishna opened up. Her mother used to visit these areas, helping the poor, feeding kids, doing all the good stuff. One day, she was killed, supposedly over a stolen wedding ring. Even though she'd helped so many, no one stepped in to help her. That pain stuck with Krishna. Since then, she vowed to become someone strong enough to stop such things from happening again. That's why she joined the Royal Knights and rose up fast, earning the nickname Iron Rose. People said she was cold, but the truth was, her face had been locked in a serious look ever since her mom died. Smiling didn't come easy anymore. The next day, Zenos was checking up on Sophia while Krishna was supposed to be out. Carmilla, floating nearby, remarked that Krishna's story wasn't rare. In 300 years, she'd seen so many people twist their lives around because of one bad event. While chatting, she asked Zenos about the flag still hanging in the room. He figured he'd take it down soon. Then, just as Sophia was about to bring up something strange, like spotting a royal knight nearby, Krishna stormed into the clinic unannounced. Both women immediately went on guard, weapons out. Carmilla joked that Zenos looked like he just got caught cheating. Lily yelled that Sophia had just gotten lost. Sophia confirmed it, hoping to ease the tension, but Krishna wasn't done. She asked about Sophia's arm, certain the mediator had healed it. This was the person she believed was influencing the area, possibly manipulating people. Sophia didn't let it slide. She pointed out that shady characters existed in every level of society. If Krishna was serious about stopping child trafficking, then she should know the person running the show was actually a high-up noble, not some local troublemaker. Krishna refused to believe it, especially since this noble, Calendar, was known for helping orphans. But Sophia argued that the whole reason the illegal network was centered in the slums was to keep attention off Calendar. Krishna didn't buy it, believing the slums were the root of the problem. But Sophia hadn't expected the officer to care this much about her words. And with that, things weren't anywhere close to cooling down. Turns out Krishna had one big blind spot. She kept judging folks by where they came from, not who they were. Deep down, though, she knew the truth. The one called the mediator didn't care about where people lived or how they looked. He just helped whoever really needed it. Even if she didn't want to admit it, he was the kind of person who would save anyone, even someone like her. He didn't carry around that heavy sense of justice she clung to, the kind that blamed all wrongs on the slums. Then, out of nowhere, Zenos stepped in front of her weapon and calmly revealed that Sophia was his patient and he was the mediator. Krishna couldn't believe it. In her mind, the mediator had to be some high-level healing expert, and Zenos was more into shielding spells. You couldn't be a pro at both, right? But Zenos told her that he wasn't a master at either one, just that defense and healing weren't that different when you understood them deeply. Still unsure, Krishna decided to distance herself. Hanging around a slum doc who backed the mediator didn't fit the image of a flawless hero she wanted to maintain. So, she headed to see Lord Calendar, pointing out that there had been some shady movement lately and asking for a security check at his mansion. Calendar was polite about it, but Krishna insisted on making it a surprise visit, just to keep it real. While walking through the place, something felt off. The guards were oddly packed near the back of the house. Suspicious, she slipped into a hidden area and found a secret stairway. Down there in the dark, she found kids locked up in chains. It was clear this wasn't just a fancy home, it was a cover. But before she could get them out, a shot rang out and hit her in the back. Lord Calendar stepped out of the shadows, weapon in hand, acting like this was all just part of his operation. To him, she was just another person who needed to be kept quiet. Wounded and fading, Krishna apologized to the kids, realizing she might not make it. Her mind drifted to her mother and how she had failed to live up to her own promise of being a hero. But right when all hope seemed gone, X-Fi showed up with Xenos. Calendar had no idea who these two were. Xenos just looked like a chill street doc, and X-Fi said she only showed him the path. The Lord laughed it off and tried to shoot Xenos, but the healer's magic shield blocked it. Calmly, Xenos moved in, forcing Calendar into a panic. The noble tried another shot but tripped over himself and hit the ground hard. Xenos grabbed the nearest pistol and aimed it at Calendar. The Lord barked back, stunned that someone beneath him dared to act like this. Xenos, unfazed, reminded him that if you go around pulling triggers, you better be ready to face one too. Calendar begged for mercy, thinking his noble title meant something. Xenos didn't care. He pointed out that the man owed an apology, but not to him. When Calendar didn't get the message, Xenos fired. The shot didn't kill him, just tore through his outfit and knocked him flat in the most embarrassing way. He wasn't judge or jury, just someone who didn't tolerate attacks on the people he might one day help. Meanwhile, Krishna thought this was the end for her. She asked Xenos to report everything, but the healer just smirked, saying it was a bit sad to see someone called Iron Rose throwing in the towel. While healing her wounds, he joked about sending her a bill later. She was stunned, not just by the fact she was still alive, but by how easily he handled it all. To her, he was a true hero. But Xenos shrugged it off, saying he was just a low-budget healer in a broken-down clinic. Krishna, finally recovering, admitted she wasn't the perfect hero after all. Xenos simply said, "No one is. If you stand for something, you're going to get hurt." It's his job to make sure people don't die from that. Still, to some folks out there, she was a hero. And when the kids asked if the hero was still there, it hit her hard. She thought her mother had died helpless, but those street kids her mom used to feed, they saw her as a hero too. Flawed, tired, even forgetful, but a hero all the same. Later, Sophia's crew rescued the children while she and Xenos quietly slipped out before the royal knights showed up. Before leaving, Krishna asked why he came back for her. Xenos said simply that she couldn't pay her bill if she was dead. She laughed, really laughed for the first time in ages, realizing that maybe being imperfect wasn't the worst thing after all. That's it for this episode.